Okay, let's go over how to draw a Tyrannosaurus versus a Skullcrawler from King Kong. So we're going to go through this, and I already kind of sketched in a very light sketch right there. Let me actually turn on a little bit of another light over here, but it's just a loose sketch, which you probably cannot see. So I'm going to go straight in with ink. So right off the bat, going into the eye right here, and getting very close right there. He's getting very upset. I wanted to have the T-Rex kind of dominating, as I feel like he probably would. But you never know, right? Skull crawlers are pretty big. I don't know who you think would win. Um, but I just like the T-Rex more for the most part. I mean, the Skullcrawler does have these big kind of hands and these huge kind of hands going on, like hands that he uses as feet. And I know the T-Rex has those tiny arms, but the tiny arms are not useless. The tiny arms are incredibly strong for its proportion. I kind of found that out. Going over here, kind of the front, right? Finding the just the general. I want to say the general kind of flow of the drawing is. I'm more or less putting stuff in that I think is cool. That's what's going through my head. I'm like, oh, wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? That's literally what I'm kind of doing with this whole thing. I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it had this shape? Right? And that's kind of a big part of it for me is having fun. Right? Pulling the teeth back. They're always curved back into the mouth. Like they're pulling stuff in. Excuse me. There we go. Line down right there. Kind of that open skin thing that lizards have. T-Rex has that. I'll just draw them with it. Curve along here. And I think I needed to beef up that jaw a little bit, so I ended up kind of beefing that jaw just a bit there. And kind of as I'm drawing this, I'm thinking of little shapes that are going on here, like around the bottom of the chin. I am just kind of, again, trying to enjoy myself and think of the mild dynamics of the pose. Nothing too wild. And I'm going to throw right here a tongue right there. It's funny too because when you're drawing a lot of like venom stuff and things like that, you don't want to draw like a giant tongue too much because you get in the habit of that. So you kind of forget like what a normal tongue on an animal, on a carnivorous animal, would look like because you keep trying to draw these gigano carnivorous tongues. We're going to fill in the back of his mouth over here on this side with a really dark area. And the reason I want to make it really dark is I want it to stand out. To be very graphic. That's the thing I'm going to think about the most with this. I want it to be very graphic. Let's go over here. Draw on the eye right there. There's a hollowed out shape right around here. I know people say like, oh, it wouldn't be hollowed out. I mean, it depends. We don't know, right? Not hollowed out, but concave. Because when you look at like certain lizards, they have that kind of thing. I know they based it off of living animals. It wasn't just, what you think. Going back there. Curving line for the back of the neck. Down. This area. Line underneath here for the throat. All right. Line in the back right there because he has an ear. That's something that the T Rex and the dinosaurs, right? And you look at lizards, the same thing. Usually, it's like a small slit on the behind their ear, behind their eye. And just while I'm in the area, I'm throwing in like a couple of little things for like little scales. Nothing wild because another thing you have to keep in mind though is that this right here, I'm dealing with scale. This is a smaller drawing, right? The head is smaller. The T-Rex head is smaller than I would be if I was doing some sort of portrait for the T-Rex. So that's something that's very important. You really want to kind of take that into account and kind of be careful with your detail because you're not always going to be able to have that room that you want, right? Because this is smaller scale, smaller drawing. So it's just not going to work that way. All right. Let's go over here and find his arm down here. His arm right there on that side. Pulling in. And their arms were about as big as ours, but I think they were like, what, 10 times stronger or something like that? Something insane like that. Some huge. He had these two fingers, right? Two giant claws right there. Around that side. May thicken the arm out a little bit. It's looking a little too dainty. Mm-hmm. Right on. Pulling a line over here. Right there for the lat. T-Rex's lat. If you don't know much about because it's funny because that is human anatomy as well, right? A lot of these you can tell the animals are related to us, very distantly, because they'll have the same thing. They'll have lats. They'll have like a lot of the same musculature we do. If you do want to learn anything about human anatomy, go check that out. Go check out the drawing lessons on the website. Okay, go check out that link. It's sketchmonsterart.com. Sketchmonsterart.com, and you're gonna see all kinds of stuff for learning, and I'm adding a lot to it right now. So it's gonna be like a hub there for learning, and just all kinds of cool stuff on there. Line over here underneath, I want a little bit of darkness underneath the neck. Always kind of adds a little bit of flavor to it. There you go. Right on. Chest area. Going down over here. And right, there's a line over there. We're kind of trying to fill out the T-Rex before we go into the skull crawler. So over here now, it's gonna have this kneecap, which I heard they didn't really have kneecaps, which is interesting. But down here, his foot, and I want him to be dominating over the Skullcrawler, just because I feel like he's more of a star. People like he's a fan favorite. Skullcrawler's, you know, it's just a bad guy for the most part. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't. I do like the Skullcrawler designs. I think they are really cool, but they've never been like my favorite design or anything. But I do like them. I do think they're cool for sure. Obviously, that's why I'm drawing them. You know, I think they're neat creations for sure. Over here. back of the back of the. So the leg, it's interesting with his leg, right? He has a, what do you call it? A I think they call it digigrade. Is that what it is? Digigrade. There's plantigrade and digigrade. Digigrade is basically where you're standing. They're standing on their digits. So their heel. So like think of a human foot, right? Human foot is standing on where our heel touches the floor. Our heel. Think of our foot, right? That's called plantigrade, where you're planting yourself. You're planting your foot down. Digigrade is when you're standing on your digits, kind of like a dog. You know, they have that raised heel, ready to like run and pounce and stuff like that. So I mean, T-Rex had more of the most part. You know, like I said, look at your cat, dog, stuff like that. I think other animals that have what we have. Let's go over here to this arm. I think other animals that had what we have were, I think the bear, oddly enough, is plantigrade, and then the what else was there? I think it's the bear, and there's a few other animals for sure. I know the bear is the one I was surprised the most at. All right, we got the. We're gonna don't forget by we're gonna like tie all this together, okay? But we got the T Rex for the most part in here, right? For the most part, we still got to put details on him, but we have him just standing there, like looming there, which is what we want. So let's kind of chop in and go into, you know, the what's it called, the skull crawler here. So the skull crawler in general will have. It's like he's wearing like a mask, even though I don't think he technically is. Excuse me. Line over here. And we're going to find the bony kind of mask thing he has on. It's honestly really, really cool. I think, and he's got like an eyeball behind the mask. You know what I mean? Which is really bizarre. That's something that a lot of people don't see. They kind of tend to just see the mask. It looks like the eyes. And oh, back here, he's gonna be on the floor, so he's gonna be touching grass. So we'll sort that out, that surface. For now, we'll give him a little bit of a cushion right here. He's just kind of touching that. Right on. Over here now, I'm gonna try to go over here, and I'm going to draw the teeth in. I guess his teeth are not gigantic in proportion, right? Sometimes you see some characters, like think of like saber-toothed tiger and stuff like that, and they have ginormous teeth in proportion. So it's just something to take into account. It's definitely it's definitely something to like ponder and look at, and it's one of those cool like you look at the nature versus like designed creatures stuff. And that stuff's so fascinating because obviously when people are like doing this for the movie, right, they are absolutely kind of looking at it and like looking at nature, right? All this stuff. Obviously, they looked at nature and stuff like real animals to design the skull crawler. Obviously, so it's just fun to kind of see that contrast go on real quick. Right, and I made him a little bit bigger than T Rex because I think he is a little bit bigger. So that's why I did that on purpose. That was definitely not, how do you say? It was definitely not something that I did on accident. go. Mm-hmm. Over here. And there you go. We get in that face. So a lot of like the way I'm drawing here is it's setup. It's setup. I'm setting things up for stuff, that's coming. I'm just setting up, setting up. So like I'm putting these lines in, but I need to set up for more details, right? The initial scribbling of the scaffolding, right? That was setting up for the details, right? The anatomy's so weird on his leg because it's kind of like he's built like the anatomy is built like legs, but kind of has an arm quality to it. So bizarre. All right, and over here. The truth is, though, we don't have to draw it all because again, he's gonna be in the dirt here in the brush, right? I need him, kind of there, and we'll get some movement in there in a minute. All right, and let's go in more. All right, so what else? Let's add a little bit of kind of nail here, right? It's the nails are kind of coming down here, and then there you go. Cool, cool. So now we're gonna push into the detail, right? I'm thinking, okay, what are some things going on here? Obviously in the neck, a little bit around the T-Rex itself. Maybe throwing in just some dark spaces and areas that you wouldn't think, right? To just kind of make it important there. A little bit of flexion along the neck in this area, which is really important. The details are gonna probably make this a little bit more than you think because the T-Rex is. I mean, these characters are mostly organic, right? So it's gonna be a lot of scales and stuff like that for the most part. And since that's such a big part of it, the details count a lot. Like little areas, right, along everything will count a bunch, a lot more than maybe you would think, to be honest. And so by details, like I said, it meant small areas of dark and stuff like that. Over here. All right, just kind of filling in some of the dark areas because the dark areas are going to anchor a lot of the drawing. All right, the dark areas kind of give it a lot of character and give it a tremendous amount of personality, really. The dark areas along this stuff. Let's give it some over here. All along here. And again, it's like choosing those spots to kind of emphasize right here. And it's going to, we're doing a little bit of like pseudo cross hatching over here. We're like cross, cross, cross. excuse me, trying to show the surface of what's happening. There you go. There we go. Along here. There we go. And then let's put a little bit of dark here in the eyes, just to kind of bring it out more, right? Give it some focus. Give the T-Rex a little bit of grit. Right on. And you know, you can just kind of keep going. It's fascinating how you can just kind of keep pressing these little dark areas. And like I said, it helps so much sell the image, right? Which is what you're doing. You're trying to sell the image as kind of an action pose over here, or a post-action pose, right? As the T-Rex is more or less defeated the Skullcrawler. Let's get into the darkness of the Skullcrawler here as well. Probably put this entirely in dark right here. Let's see. The eye over here, which is strange. That's along that side right there. Along here, a little bit of darkness. All right. And I'm kind of looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, let me throw a little bit of a dark along the actual tongue coming out there, which is going to make it a little bit better. And you know what? I'm going to throw a little bit back here. And going into the face a little bit more, and we're gonna pull out. What we're doing here is you're trying to reveal some detail to the viewer. You're revealing information to the viewer. You're like, oh, this actually goes this, and this is a little prong over here. That's kind of what we're doing here. You're doing this to, again, to appease a viewer and just entertain a viewer. Really, that's kind of the whole thing about it. Is you're entertaining viewers by doing this. There we go. Right over here. Kind of the wrist along this area. And let's go into these little details, right? A lot of it's going to be these little stretch marks along the arm. You know, along the, it's got a little bit of a snake belly right here. And just gonna have to stretch it apart here. Like, you're just gonna, like, where you think the folds would happen, Where you think folds would happen, you kind of start kind of drawing them in just a bit here. And you can kind of keep it going a lot of times. It's kind of shocking how much you can keep it going. Alrighty. Curving over here. And like I said, a lot of it is you're just finding areas to accent, right? Areas to accent and kind of focus on. But I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you got a lot out of this. If you enjoyed this, do me a huge favor. Say what's up in the comments, or what I really want you to do is to share the video. I want to do a lot more of these, or give me ideas for verses, because that's actually what I was trying to think about. Like, what's a good verses that I could do? Because I would love to hear your thoughts on that. There we go. There we go. All right. Well, thank you very much. You're amazing. I'll see you next time, okay? Talk to you soon. Okay, so that was amazing. You finished this lesson, but keep it going. Keep the art practice going by clicking this video right here. It's going to be within the same theme, and you want to keep it rolling to get better and better and better and get that art flow going. So click right here.